You know, my dear, my darling, there are silences that weigh more than lead. Silences that are not of peace, but of waiting. And it was a silence like that that had fallen upon the small village of Esperança. A silence that smelled of old dust and medicine that no longer worked. The village, which once was full of easy laughter and open windows, now lived with its curtains drawn. The problem, you see, wasn't a storm that broke roofs. It was a fog, a thin, cold fog that had entered without asking permission and refused to leave. The people called it the gentle fever. It didn't kill all at once. It stole. It stole the color from the children. It stole the strength from the men. It stole the sparkle from the mother's eyes. It was a disease that made life seem like a gray day that never ended. And in the heart of this village lived Anna. Anna was a woman of good faith, the kind of faith learned in her mother's lap, but which was now being tested in the fire. Her little Tiago, her only son, had been lying there for weeks. His skin burned. It wasn't a high, noisy fever, but that constant little fever that was sapping life away, drying the boy up from the inside. Anna looked at that small body in bed, his chest rising and falling slowly, too slowly, and her mother's heart shrank. She prayed. Oh, how she prayed. Her words seemed to hit the ceiling of the room and bounce back, cold, unanswered. The town doctor, Dr. Mateus, a good man, had already scratched his head until he was exhausted. He would come, look at Tiago, take his temperature, and shake his head with that look of someone who had lost the battle. I don't know anymore, Anna. We gave everything we had. It seems it's no use. The cabinets of the small pharmacies in the region were empty of hope. The herbs, the prayers, the promises. Nothing seemed to touch that gray fog. Anna felt as if she were in a leaky boat in the middle of a dark sea. And God seemed to be looking the other way. Her pain wasn't just for her son. It was a pain of abandonment. She saw the other mothers on street corners, their eyes red from crying so much in secret. Vila Esperança was slowly dying from the inside. The deepest pain, my son, is not that of the bleeding wound, but that of the emptiness that remains. And it was this emptiness that consumed Anna. She wiped the boy's forehead with a damp cloth, and the water evaporated almost instantly. It was a dry heat, a lifeless heat. Where was the promise? Where was the care? Anna's faith, which had been like a lit lamp, was now just a wick releasing smoke, almost extinguished. She looked out the window. The playground, once full of shouts and running around, was covered in dry leaves. The swing creaked alone in the wind, like a lament. The silence of the village was deafening. Each day was a copy of the previous one, only with a little more despair. Anna knelt beside Tiago's bed, but the words wouldn't come. She simply held her son's warm little hand, and a terrible thought, a thought she tried to push away, came forcefully. What if it was the end? What if hope was just a pretty name for a village God had forgotten? She looked to the sky, no longer asking, but almost pleading in a hoarse whisper, "Lord, until when?" And Anna's "until when" stretched on. Time, my dear. When we are in the desert, it doesn't run. It drags. Weeks turned into months. The mild fever continued its silent work. Some days, Tiago seemed to improve a little. He would open his eyes, ask for water. Anna felt her heart leap. "It's today, Lord. Your mercy has arrived." But the next day, the fever would return, lazy, and the boy would sink back into that heavy sleep. Do you know what that is? It's hope that blossoms in the morning and withers in the afternoon. It's a cruel test for the soul. Anna's faith began to develop calluses. Her prayer changed. It was no longer the desperate cry of the first week. Now, it was a stubborn, almost automatic murmur. Wake up, take care, pray, sleep, repeat. It was the faith of routine, the faith of someone who has nowhere else to go. The community of Vila Esperança, once so united, began to fragment. People were afraid. Fear of visiting each other, fear that the disease would take hold even more. Dr. Mateus stopped visiting homes. He only stayed in his office, receiving those who still had the strength to go, knowing that he could only offer a little comfort, but no cure. Doubt. Doubt. It's like a weed, my son. It starts small, in a dark corner of the mind. Did I ask wrong? Is this a punishment? Does God really care about such a small village? Anna saw neighbors she had known since childhood closing their houses and leaving, going to the big city, trying their luck, fleeing the fog. Each closed door was another nail in the coffin of Anna's hope. But she couldn't go. James was too weak for a trip, and where would she go? That was her ground, that was her place. She was trapped in that crossing, with sand on all sides and no sign of an oasis. One day, Anna almost gave up. It was a rainy afternoon. The rain beat against the window pane, but it didn't carry the smell of wet earth. It didn't bring relief. It seemed like a sad rain. James was paler than usual. Anna looked at the image of Jesus on the wall, a gift from her grandmother. The eyes in the image seemed distant. I can't take it anymore, she whispered to the image. I did everything I knew how. I kept the faith. But my son is leaving, and the Lord does nothing. She sat on the cold floor beside the bed, and for the first time in months, she didn't pray. She just remained silent, an empty, heavy silence, the silence of defeat. She thought of her grandmother, Dona Benedita, a woman of robust faith, a faith that seemed to move mountains. Oh, Grandma, if you were here, you would know what to do. But her grandmother had passed away many years ago. Anna was alone. Night fell, and Anna remained there on the floor, the lamp almost out of kerosene. The desert seemed to have won. Hope hadn't died completely, but it was buried so deep that Anna no longer had the strength to dig. And she had no idea, my dear, that the answer she sought in heaven was actually right there, beneath the dust of her own roof, hidden, just waiting for the right moment to shatter. Several more days passed after that night of near giving up. Anna was still in her routine, but something about her was different. It was as if she had accepted the emptiness. She moved around the house like a shadow. Then, one morning, while the sun tried in vain to pierce the fog outside, Anna decided to tidy up her old room. It was her grandmother Dona Benedita's room. It was full of boxes, mementos covered in dust. Anna needed anything to occupy her hands and empty her head. She opened an old trunk. The scent of cedar and dried lavender rose, and for a moment, Grandma seemed to be there. Dona Benedita was a woman of few words, but of a faith. A stubborn faith. A faith with deep roots. Anna smiled, a small smile, the first in a long time. She took out yellowed lace from the trunk, a songbook with a worn cover, and there at the bottom, there it was, a vase. A simple clay vase, unpainted, unvarnished. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't valuable, but it belonged to Grandma Benedita. Anna picked it up. She felt the rough texture of the clay. She remembered her grandmother using that vase to store. What exactly? She couldn't remember. Maybe buttons. Maybe old coins. Anna stood there, holding the vase, lost in the memory of that strong hug from her grandmother. And then it happened. Perhaps because of the dampness of the house. Perhaps because of the trembling of her own exhaustion. Or perhaps it was God's timing. The vase slipped from Anna's hands. She tried to pick it up, but her reflexes were slow with sadness. The vase fell to the wooden floor. The sound of the clay breaking was dry, loud in the silence of the house. "No," Anna groaned. It was the last whole thing she had touched of her grandmother's. And now it was in pieces. She knelt, tears welling in her eyes. It seemed like a symbol of everything: her faith, her hope, her family. All broken. She began to gather the shards, angry, sad. The end of everything. But when she pushed away the largest piece, she saw. There, amidst the dust and shards of clay, lay something. It wasn't a jewel. It wasn't money. It was a small, tiny bag, made of coarse cloth tied with faded thread. It was covered in dust, as if it had been there for 50 years. Anna's heart skipped a strange beat. It wasn't hope yet. It was curiosity. Why would her grandmother hide something so small, so carefully, inside a simple clay pot? She picked up the bag. It was light. She could feel something small and hard inside it. She looked at the shards of the pot, then at the bag in her hand. What was it? What secret was this that required the pot to break to be revealed? Anna didn't know yet, but that breaking sound wasn't the sound of the end. It had been the sound of the beginning. Anna remained there, kneeling on the wooden floor, the small bag of rough cloth in the palm of her hand. The smell of dust and clay was everywhere. With trembling fingers, she untied the knot of the thread, a knot that seemed to have been tied to last an eternity. The cloth opened, and inside it, there were two things. A seed, just one. Large, dark, wrinkled, with an appearance so old it seemed dead. And, folded with infinite care, a small piece of paper, almost parchment, yellowed with age. Anna opened the paper. Her grandmother Benedita's handwriting was there, a firm script, despite its age. There were few words. It wasn't a prayer, it wasn't a recipe. It simply read, "For the day of the great thirst." Anna frowned. "Thirst," she whispered. The word echoed in the silent room. Thirst. Tiago's illness, the village's illness, was a fever, a drying heat. She looked at her son, lying in bed. His lips were cracked, dry. She kept giving him water, but it was a thirst that water couldn't quench. A great thirst. My dear, my darling, have you ever felt that? That shiver down your spine? That moment when two things that had nothing to do with each other suddenly make sense in a way that isn't logical? It's a sense of the heart. Anna looked from the dead seed to her grandmother's note, and then to her feverish son. Thirst. Her grandmother. A seed hidden in a broken pot. For the day of the great thirst. A madness began to sprout in Anna's chest. A madness that seemed very much like faith. She almost threw the seed away. What good would it do? It was dead, old, but what if it wasn't? What if Grandma Benedita's faith had been kept, like a treasure, inside that dry shell? What am I doing? She thought, but her feet were already carrying her. She left the room, went to the kitchen, and looked out the window. Outside, in the yard, was a dry, cracked flower bed. It was where Dona Benedita planted her tea herbs. Nothing had grown there for years. Anna went outside. The air was cold, damp with that sickly fog. She knelt on the hard earth. With her own fingers, she dug a hole. It was an absurd act of faith, an act of someone who has nothing left to lose. She held the seed in her hand for a moment. It felt like a piece of charcoal. "Grandma," she whispered, "whatever God wills." She placed the seed in the hole. She covered it with the dry earth. She took her glass of water, the glass she used to moisten Tiago's lips, and poured it onto the earth. The earth swallowed the water as if it were thirsty. Anna stood there, looking at that patch of earth. Nothing happened. Of course nothing happened. It was just an old seed. She sighed, feeling silly. But as she stood up, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. It wasn't joy. It was purpose. She had done something her grandmother had prepared. She had obeyed a whisper that came from the past. She went back inside, unaware that the miracle was no longer waiting. It had already begun to tear through the dark earth. That night, Anna barely slept, but it wasn't out of despair. It was out of a new anxiety, a spark flickering in her chest. When the first ray of sunlight, pale and sickly, touched the window, Anna jumped from the chair where she had dozed. She ran to the kitchen window, and she held her breath. My son, my daughter, what I'm about to tell you. It's the kind of thing you can't explain, you just believe. Where, the night before, there had only been dry, cracked earth, now there was a sprout. But it wasn't an ordinary sprout. It was a green sprout, a green so vibrant, so full of health, that it hurt eyes accustomed to the gray of the village. It was as if all the life missing in the city was concentrated there. Anna ran outside, barefoot. She touched the leaf. It was lush. "My God," she whispered, and the plant grew. She could almost see it was growing. It wasn't normal growth, it was miraculous growth. By midday, what had been a sprout was already a small shrub. The leaves were a shape Anna had never seen before. At nightfall, as the sun set, a flower opened. A single flower. A deep blue, a blue reminiscent of a clear sky after a storm. And the smell. Ah, the smell. It wasn't a sweet perfume. It was a smell of relief. It smelled of wet earth, good rain, clean life. Anna kept watching, and I knew as clearly as if her grandmother were whispering in her ear. She knew exactly what to do. She picked some leaves from that miraculous plant. The plant seemed to offer itself. She returned to the kitchen, her hands trembling. She boiled the water. The smell of the steam filled the house, and for the first time, it wasn't the smell of illness. It was the smell of healing. She made a tea. The color was a light, luminous amber. She waited for it to cool down. She took the cup to Tiago's room. The boy was at the height of his fever, breathing with difficulty. "Tiago, my son." She carefully lifted his head. "Drink. Drink for your mother." The boy, almost unconscious, obeyed. He drank the tea, sip by sip. And then, silence. Anna watched her son's face. 1 minute, 2, and then it happened. The dry heat which burned Tiago's skin began to seep out. A sweat, a real sweat, a feverish sweat breaking out, began to break out on his forehead, on his neck. The boy coughed, a deep cough, and suddenly his eyes opened. But they were no longer blurry, distant. They focused. They saw Anna. "Mom!" The voice came out weak, but it was his voice. "Mom, I'm cold." Anna burst into tears. Cold. He was cold. The fever was going away. She covered him, crying, laughing, giving thanks. She ran outside, gathered more leaves. She made a whole jar. She ran to her neighbor's house, Dona Clara, whose granddaughter was also sick. "Drink it! Give it to her!" Dona Clara looked suspicious, but the sparkle in Anna's eyes was something she hadn't seen in months. She gave her the tea, and the girl woke up. The news, my dear, spread like wildfire. It flew faster than the wind. Anna's tea! Grandma Benedita's plant! A miracle! In an hour, Vila Esperança, once silent, was in an uproar. The sound of boiling pots, doors opening, people running. People lined up in Anna's yard. The more the plant was harvested, the more it sprouted. It seemed like an inexhaustible source, the gray fog of illness. It didn't go away. It was. Expel it was washed over by the scent of healing. At dawn the next day, Vila Esperança awoke healed. The great thirst had been quenched. The miracle was there, growing in Anna's backyard, born from a dead seed found in the shards of a broken pot. What a story, isn't it? How beautiful is the work of God. Just look. Hannah was seeking healing in heaven, and God had hidden it in the dust, within the past. How many times, my dear, do we look at our lives and only see broken vessels? A dream that didn't work out, a loss that still hurts today, a relationship that broke apart, a diagnosis that seemed like the end. We look at the shards and think, it's over. There's no fixing it. God has forgotten me. But Hannah's story teaches us something precious. It is precisely in the broken that God hides the most powerful seeds. God's provision for Vila Esperança wasn't created at that moment. It was planted 50 years earlier, through the faith of a grandmother. Dona Benedita didn't live to see the miracle. She didn't live to see the city healed. But she obeyed. She kept the seed. She wrote the note. She trusted that one day, the day of great thirst would arrive, and God's provision would be ready. Your blessing, my son, is often not just for you. It's a legacy. The faith you have today, your stubbornness in believing even when everything is broken, can be the seed that will cure the great thirst of your grandchildren. God wasn't silent while Anna suffered. He was just waiting for the right time. The time to break the vessel. The time to reveal what was hidden. And I ask you, who are listening to me now, what is the broken vessel in your life today? What is the situation that seems to be only pain, only shards, only the end? Could you, with the eyes of faith, look a little closer? Could it be that, in the midst of this pain, God has hidden a seed, a lesson, a new strength, a provision you haven't yet seen? I'd love to hear your story. Faith grows stronger when we share it. Leave a comment below. Tell me, tell our community, what was the broken vessel in your life that, by God's grace, revealed a seed of hope? Let's fill this space with reminders that our God is an expert at transforming shards into miracles. If this story of Anna, Tiago, and Grandma Benedita touched your heart, leave your amen below. Like this video so that this message of hope reaches someone else who is looking at their own broken pieces today. And of course, subscribe to the channel so that we can continue, together, week after week, sharing these soul-warming stories of faith. God be with you, my dear, and never forget, even the broken vessel has a purpose in the potter's hands.